Tommy Lee Jones is here. He won an Oscar for his work in The Fugitive. He now stars in 2 films this season. First, there is In the Valley of Elah by Paul Haggis, the director. It also stars Charlize Theron and Susan Sarandon. Then there's Joel and Ethan Coen's No Country for Old Men. That film is the centerpiece of the New York Film Festival. A.O. Scott of the New York Times on In the Valley of Elah, quote, "There is something inarguable, something irreducibly honest and right about Mr. Jones's performance."
That sounds good.
I like that.
I like that kind of talk.
I am pleased to have him back at this table. Listen, without flattering you.
Yes, sir.
They're all saying it's a great performance, and somehow you have enhanced the character. That it was like you have permeated this character. Did you feel that way?
No, I was just trying to do the best job I could. Paul wrote a pretty good screenplay, and I tried to help him see what he wanted to see. That's pretty much the way I look upon my job. Read the screenplay, understand it as well as you can, and do your best to find out what the director wants to see, and then make it possible in every way you can for him to see it.
Even though it might, in another case, in No Country for Old Men, be based on a book written by someone you like and admire very much, Cormac McCarthy.
Oh, yes, sir.
No different. Same thing. Look at the text, try to see what the character's about, and do the best you can.
Yeah. And also try to figure out what the director might want to see, and then make it possible, insofar as you can, for him to see it.
So what was he looking for in Hank Deerfield?
I think ultimately we were looking for maybe 2 different things. He liked the character a lot more than I did.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what did he like about him, and what didn't you like about him?
Well, he thought the guy was salt of the earth, the all-American man, ultimately the admirable common man of America. And
whose life is upside down because his son is killed.
Yeah, exactly. And there were elements in the character that I don't like.
Like?
This character is blindly patriotic without thought.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly not you.
And he's ethnocentric, which is a polite way to say bigot.
Right.
So, and those are things that I really didn't like.
But
so he sought out the likable qualities in a person with those handicaps. That's what he wanted to see, which is a pretty sophisticated way of looking at it, I determined finally. I have such disgust for those things that I, probably played more toward the disgusting villain than he wanted. But we worked it out.
But your character goes from where you want him to go, doesn't he?
He goes from the wrong place to the right place.
Exactly right.
And it all works out.
Well, my point is, the worse he is, the more interesting the journey is.
Yeah. Well, he begins to rethink blind, unthinking patriotism that might lead you to war, let's say, without any thought. And from a place of, I can only say racial prejudice, to a more open-minded place. And that was the journey, and I'm hoping, and I believe we made it.
You did. Is it, by definition, an anti-war film? Because something happens in war?
Well, an anti-war film is a big term. It's a big concept. And this is about people who live in Tennessee and in New Mexico who are involved in a war. So I would hesitate to put such a wide, generic
some people
term on it.
Yeah, but using different circumstances, which is a return from war to make a statement about war.
Yeah, well, we have kids coming back from war who are badly injured. And that's worthy of our consideration now. And some other medium, let's say, than television, if you'll forgive me, it's worthy of consideration in literature and in movies in order to put it into a narrative context that might somehow make it a more personal experience than the television.
And make you find a deeper truth, perhaps.
Maybe, because sometimes the television inures us to personalizing what we see. It's because we watch it all day long, every day, and it's difficult to take personally what we see on television sometimes, I think.
And it takes away the harshness of it. It's almost, it becomes...
If it can be put into a dramatic context, sometimes the information comes to us from a different direction and makes a different impact and approaches the truth maybe, it helps to approach the truth maybe a little bit closer. I mean, that's supposed to be the function of theater and movies also. The highest and best use for it.
Any similarity between the character you play in No Country for Old Men and this character? They're both men who
well, I hope not. You know, I pay more attention to trying to make all these characters different rather than the same. And I really don't give any thought at all to, you know, a running theme, let's say, in the characters one chooses to play.
No,
I'm not trying to create a persona.
I know you don't do that, but sometimes you play characters that come or somewhere or look, they've been overwhelmed by an environment. They find out that there's a world out there they don't know or understand. That's clearly what happened in No Country for Old Men. Yes?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And in this case, Hank Deerfield finds himself in a world that he doesn't really know or understand. There are things about it.
Yeah, but that happens to all of us every day.
Yeah. Take a look at this. This is a scene first from In the Valley of Elah. Here it is.
Mike was the one who wanted to join. I sure as hell didn't encourage it.
Yeah, living in this house, he never could have felt like a man if he hadn't gone. Both of my boys, Hank, you could have left me one.
One of the Coen brothers said about it, said you added more acid to the character than was there in the novel.
I read the, Cormac's a friend of mine. I've read all of his books.
I know it. And read all the criticisms it said.
And read all the criticisms, and I read that book, and that's, you know, the character that I played is the way I read it as applied to Joel and Ethan's screenplay. And certainly didn't set out to add acid. Maybe they read the book differently than I did.
The Coen brothers.
Yeah, that's possible.
It is said that you insisted it be set in West Texas.
I suggested the obvious, that you can't, it'd be silly to try to create a stand-in or find a stand-in for the Trans-Pecos. That is to say, the country in Texas on the west side of the Pecos River. There's nothing like it anywhere else in the Southwest. And to try to fake it would be a mistake. It's very hard, for example, for me as a child of West Texas to watch The Searchers, which was set in West Texas.
A great movie.
Great movie, shot in Arizona.
Yeah.
And the set just doesn't work for me. And it's going to work for fewer and fewer people as time goes by. And I told them they'd be silly if they tried to fake it. I didn't yell at them or insist on anything.
Might they have had a different interpretation? That
they want to shoot it all in New Mexico because of the rebates.
Oh, that's a governmental thing?
Yeah, you get tax rebates, and New Mexico makes it much easier to shoot in New Mexico than Texas does. Texas only woke up 3 or 4 months ago and decided that they would give a 5% tax rebate.
See, I'm surprised at that because Texas has always had a lot of movies have been made in Texas, haven't they?
Yeah, but they're being outstripped by Louisiana and New Mexico now.
North Carolina to a degree, but not the same locale.
Much more encouraging in New Mexico and Louisiana to come there and shoot films. They're much more inviting than Texas is, and as a result, we're losing our talent base. And people are moving out. They're moving either to Albuquerque or New Iberia, New Orleans.
You have always chosen to live in Texas.
Yeah.
Because it's home, because you have this other life, which is as a rancher.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do that?
Well, when I figured out that I could live anywhere I wanted to, I, in my wisdom, decided to live at home. Yeah.
Yes. What's interesting about you, I mean, literally within 10 days after you left Harvard, you got a job.
I did.
And haven't stopped working since then.
No. No, not really, no. I haven't stopped working.
Has it been anything you've most wanted to do in this life of an actor that you haven't had a chance to do?
When I was younger, I wanted to play Hamlet. But that was cured by becoming too old for the part.
You can still play Lear.
Maybe one day.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm too young.
Well, you are a bit now.
But maybe one day. I think I could play Big Daddy in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
Would you want to?
Oh, it's been, I'd like to let some time go by, because there have been a lot of productions here within the last few years.
Here's what's interesting, too, about what critics are saying about your performance here. Is that you don't, I mean, there is no sense of vanity about you in these performances. I mean,
I hope not.
You hope not, because it's not about who you are.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. When you tell me the story of the character, your character who plays a sheriff who comes on a bad drug scene.
Yeah. In No Country for
Right.
Old Men, there was a kid. There's a kid from San Saba, Texas, by the way, who happens to be living in Sanderson,
Right.
which is much further west.
You're from San Saba.
Yes.
Right.
And he's out hunting antelopes, and he comes up upon a battle site, a drug deal gone bad, with dead people laying everywhere, and a pickup full of brown Mexican heroin, and a track that's leading out across the desert. The last man standing, clearly to him, he figures out, and he tracks that. He finds the fellow that survived. He crawled up under a bush out on the out in one of those pastures and died. And he had a briefcase with $2 million in it with him. And the kid decides that there's no good reason to leave that money there.
No. Yes.
And the drama ensues.
We have a story.
Then we have a story.
And we have a chase.
A chase.
Because the people whose money was want it.
We have two chases.
Yeah, exactly.
The people whose money he's got are chasing him. He's trying to get away.
Right.
And the sheriff of the local county, kind of an old-timer, is chasing both of them because he doesn't like any disturbance of the peace.
Right. And this is all a world he doesn't quite understand, drug money and how drug lords operate.
And the violence that comes with it.
And especially the violence.
He really doesn't understand it, and it overwhelms him to some extent, except for the insight that he has into the passage of time, which is revealed, I think, in the last few closing scenes. Maybe it's insight into what, I don't know. Maybe it's insight into how easily overwhelmed he's become. And maybe it's insight into the future always being there. Like all of Cormac's stories, the questions are more important than the answers. And there's a good question at the end of the movie. So the movie looks like a good chase movie, and it looks like a good drug and violence movie, and a good crime show. It's got all the elements. But like all of Cormac's work, there's many other dimensions to it. If you call this a drug and violence chase movie, you can call Blood Meridian a Western. Or you can call Child of God a horror flick. But these stories are much more.
Yes, they are. And what question is he asking at the end?
To what extent has the world overwhelmed us late and soon?
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe and maybe not.
Do you write?
Oh, yeah.
What do you write?
Screenplays.
Are you working on one now?
Yeah. I own the the motion picture rights to Ernest Hemingway's last book. And we've made a screenplay of it. And we're hoping to be able to shoot it.
What was his last book?
It's called Islands in the Stream.
Oh, yes.
It was published posthumously.
Right.
It was really,
Did somebody have to finish it? Had he finished it?
Yeah, somebody had to finish it.
Yeah.
It was really 3 stories that
Right.
his wife Mary and the publisher sort of tacked together. And the foreword to the first edition says that Papa was unable to finish this book, but I know the changes that he was going to make, and I've done them for him. I've finished his work. You could not argue that this is his best work, because you cannot argue that it's his.
What is his best work?
That I don't know. I've read them all, but I wouldn't presume to say which one's the best.
Well, which one do you like the most?
Right now, Islands in the Stream.
So how long have you been working on this, and what are you doing with it? I mean, Tommy Lee Jones is writing the screenplay.
Well, it's already written with my writing partner, Bill Whitliff.
Right.
Who did the screenplays for Lonesome Dove and Black Beauty and a lot of other movies that you may have
You say
heard
he's
of.
your writing partner just for this project or otherwise?
No, just for this project. We're co-authors of the screenplay.
Lonesome Dove was an extraordinary adaptation, didn't you think?
It was very fine work, and that's why I called Bill first. I said, Bill, let's go to work.
Let's do this together.
Yeah.
How do you do it together? You sit down and you...
I wrote a first draft, and it got through about 75% of the screenplay, and I sent it to him. He wrote what I did and added on the end. Sent it back. I rewrote that. I sent it to him. He wrote...
So you get the screen, and is there interest?
Yes.
Are you going to make it? I mean, you have a schedule?
I wish I could say yes, but we're very close.
You got the money?
Not yet, but we're very close.
And will you play in it?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
What's the story?
No, it's a story about a painter who lives in Bimini by himself. His 3 sons come to visit him.
Does he fish?
Oh, yeah, he fishes.
Why would you live in Bimini?
Yeah, he's an oil painter.
Right.
His 3 sons come to visit him, and they're from 2 different mothers, and it's a confusing family situation. And they come together, they bond together, and after they separate, 2 of the boys are killed in a car wreck in Monte Carlo, and one of the boys goes off to join the RAF in England and gets killed, and he's totally alone. He's completely devastated. And he leaves Bimini, goes to Cuba, and starts chasing German submarines in his fishing boat. I mean, the Caribbean was crawling with U-boats in 1941.
And the Atlantic
nearly
Coast.
won the war.
And so was the Atlantic Coast.
Yeah. So he goes to work for the Cuban government, and they find a wrecked crew of German submariners, and they chase them down and engage them in a final battle.
I mean, you've got these men, older men, going through wrenching experiences, trying to come to grips with a world they don't know, or a world that's been rocked by some unforeseen event.
Yes.
The death of a son,
Well, it's
violence, unimaginable violence.
the advent of it's about art, family, and the advent of the Second World War, and what it takes to wage war against fascism.
Will you direct this as well?
Oh, yes. Yes, sir.
You wrote the screenplay.
Yeah.
You'll produce it.
Yeah.
You'll direct it. You'll star in it.
I act in it.
You will, act in it, fair enough. You're the consummate filmmaker in this case, then.
That's really my ambition, yeah.
Yeah. In No Country, it is said that one of the other people they thought about was Clint Eastwood, that they needed the kind of gravitas that the two of you bring. There's not a point here other than when you said consummate filmmaker, you think of someone like him. It's the 2 people that can play, the kind of character where you really do have to.
I appreciate being mentioned in the same sentence with Clint. He's a friend and certainly a heroic character in every filmmaker's life.
It seems to me that you are somebody who lives by his own code, who defines the kind of life he wants, who has done pretty much what he wants to do. who's found satisfaction in the career that he sort of got into early on. And there's been an evolution. You had a chance to play good and bad, heroic and non-heroic. I mean, it's not, I guess this is a long-winded question, is that this has been a rather interesting journey with little complaint, yes?
No, I don't have any complaints. I'm 61 years old, and you feel a little bit more soreness, physical soreness at the end of a polo match than I did 30 years ago. And that's regrettable, but inevitable, so what the hell? Otherwise, no regrets at all. Besides, getting older.
Well, but the more you do, it seems the more opportunities you get to do more things.
Oh, we're very happy in life, and hoping to do better.
Come back.
I will.
Thank you, Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Charlie.
Let me give you the dates on this. In the Valley of Elah is in theaters now. You can see it at the opening of the New York Film Festival, No Country for Old Men, Friday, November 9th, and nationwide on Wednesday, November 21st. Tommy Lee Jones, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.